In the last lecture, I explained how what we're seeing with product-led growth is mimicking what's happened in the video game industry. And a big part of that we can see with the free-to-play gaming, which is some of the most popular games in the market where the demand has surged. But there's another aspect of gaming that is very relevant to product-led growth, and that's the idea of gamification. So the experience that happens when you're using the product, when you're onboarding the product, when you're getting emails, that kind of creates a bit of a reward system, some positive reinforcement, some gamification tactics. So let's take a look at some examples. This is an email from Grammarly, and basically it is a celebration of the achievements that you have taken within the app. And it's similar to the kind of rewards that you get when you play video games. So if we look over here, productivity, a new record. Wow, you just broke a record. That's kind of a gaming positive reinforcement. You were more productive than 76% of Grammarly users. So this kind of feedback is great. You see this a lot in esports where there's a ranking system and you can see how well you're performing relative to other people. Mastery, you were more accurate than 67% of Grammarly users. So you're creating this positive reinforcement. You're building confidence. You're basically saying, we want you to continue using this product, and we're going to tell you what a great job you're doing. And then they're talking about vocabulary, new records. So Grammarly is doing an excellent job of gamification. And these are some specific types of tactics that you can employ. And what I expect is that this is currently the frontier of product-led growth, the gamification. And in the future, there's going to be a lot more companies moving in this direction in terms of the user interface, in terms of the emails that are sent out. All of this is going to be gamified, at least for companies that have large economies of scale where it's profitable to invest in this type of system for the long run. Probably isn't going to be so important when you're dealing with tiny niches because building out this kind of system may not be worth it from an ROI perspective. All right, so we also see that there's more qualitative aspects that are tied to quantitative metrics. So they're looking at things like tone. Now, in a lot of cases, it may not be easy to say, oh, somebody was just objectively better than other users of Grammarly, but we can say that, oh, their tone was neutral or confident, sad. It's kind of like saying you're this personality or you're this astrology group. It's something that you can say about somebody that isn't necessarily objectively better or worse, but it's just this is part of your identity. And that's an easy cop-out when you can't figure out what kind of positive feedback to give somebody. So this is similar to one of the most popular video games, which is CounterStrike Global Offensive. And one of the things I find interesting about CounterStrike is it's this super competitive game. So when somebody starts playing, they're just dying all the time. So how do you get somebody addicted to your product, interested in your product, when they just keep losing? Well, you give them feedback, you give them recognition, and you give them awards for things that sometimes seem silly, like you started the most fires. Okay, you didn't kill the most people, you didn't have the most success, but what we can say about you is you started the most fires, or you were the quietest walker in the game. Everybody gets a reward in this system. And this is the final stage in the game when you see what you were. You were the bullseye. Okay, most headshots, quad killer, most 4 kills. Weapons master, entry fragger, moral support. So everybody gets something in a gamified system. It's not necessarily the best thing, but at least it's something to say, hey, you were important. You are something. You have an identity. Another example I often cite is Lemlist. Lemlist is a cold email tool. One of the challenges with cold email is that it feels kind of dirty. It feels wrong. People don't like it. So Lemlist has focused on gamification and all sorts of little tactical things that make the experience of sending cold emails feel positive and elated rather than cold and distrustful. So the example here is I just went in and created a new campaign called Test 2. Now look at this. They use this little clapping like, hey, congratulations, you just created a campaign. It's kind of a stupid achievement, but that's how gamification works. You positively reinforce certain behaviors to build habits. The other thing is that there's this little pop-up in the bottom right, and if you haven't tried this, I recommend just trying it out, and you'll see some cool notifications come up. Loving the name of your new campaign. It's kind of silly, but it's likable, it's gamified. And then when I complete another task, step 3, it's probably going to give me another pop-up that says, hey, congratulations on adding your leads. And then there's little hearts in the eyes, and these silly little things work because when you're having a product-led experience, one of the biggest challenges for you is just getting people to complete those initial steps. And the more kind of flashy little like gambling type reinforcement things that happen, maybe it's a little sound, maybe it's a little pop-up, maybe a little confetti shooting all over the place, those actually build habits and encourage people to move on through these various steps that are required. And I want to pay close attention to the icons here because I find it really cool. They're using the celebration icon, the confetti, the cool little megaphone, the little angel happy face, and again, the confetti. They're using these very colorful, positive, gamified type icons, something that you might expect to see in maybe like a mobile casual game where like a Fruit Ninja or one of those little gambling games. These are habit-forming games, and that's the kind of thing we want with gamification. Another example is ClickUp. So ClickUp's been getting a lot of traction lately. The company got, $100 million in Series B funding, I think, as of this recording. Doing great, super positive, well-branded company with a cool spokesperson. Let's talk about what they're doing. So I went through their onboarding experience, and one of the first things that you're asked to do is to customize your workspace's avatar. Now, what this reminds me of is role-playing games, where you don't just go into the game and start attacking or building your economy or whatever. You actually customize what your character looks like. Is it a male? Is it a female? Are you slim? Do you have a tiny head? Is your eye color blue or brown or whatever? That's similar to what ClickUp is doing, which is really interesting because you don't typically think of this kind of business-to-business SaaS company as requiring, this personalized consumer-like experience. They also want you to choose your color theme. So it's not just, oh, do I want a dark theme or a light theme? It's what color do you want? Let's make this fun. Let's make this like playing a game. It's not like work anymore. It's play. And they even use the word play with, which is really interesting. That's almost a sign into how much this company has committed to gamification by using the word play. Okay, now just looking at that customization that I was talking about, like in an RPG, when you select what your character looks like, ClickUp wants you to customize the colors in your interface. Now, theoretically, how does this work together? Well, I just am going to use this framework. It's from, I want to give full credit to the book Hooked. And this author, I listened to one of his interviews in a webinar. I thought it was great. Seems like quite the expert in his field on habit formation. So the aspect of this framework that applies to this is the idea of investment. The idea is if you get somebody to invest something in the product, time and effort, customizations, colors, etc., they're more likely to stay in your system, to stay hooked on your product. And that is part of gamification. Now, the other part of the customized experience is figuring out what stage the person is at. Now, we implemented this at a company I was working at. It's a really interesting direction to go, which is kind of a combination of gamification and personalization. So what's your experience level in using project management tools? Are you a beginner? Are you an intermediate? Are you an expert? What's interesting here is it's not just boring text. It's icons. It's rounded. It's fun. It's like clicking something for a game. It's like deciding, okay, I'm going to play this first-person shooter, and you have to decide, are you on extremely difficult mode or extremely easy mode? So that the onboarding experience, the customized experience is catered to you. And when you feel like the product has been catered to you and you've invested time in making sure that you're getting the personalized, customized experience, you're more likely to stick to the product. And that's what ClickUp is doing right here. All right, another thing that a lot of these product-led growth companies are doing is in the onboarding sign-up process, they're getting you to invite other people. Now, one of the concepts I talked about early in the course is a wide top of funnel. And in a wide top of funnel, you want lots of people using your product. And lots of those people are not going to pay for your product. They're not your ICP in terms of money. But what they can do is they can generate word of mouth. And this is one way to compel them to do that, by getting them inviting other people into the network. Now, the last thing I want to point out here is that ClickUp, with their product-led growth onboarding, is really trying to get you to watch the videos, the tutorials, so that you actually learn how to use the product. Now, in video games, usually there's an initial level where you do some simple tasks and they kind of teach you along the way. Well, ClickUp's trying to do that with the videos, but they recognize that a lot of people, and this is what I did, just skip the video, they close it. They don't want to bother. They just want to jump in and have an intuitive experience. So what they're doing is they're bribing you and they're saying, you're going to get credits. And you see this all the time in video games where there's some sort of economy. It's a point system, a credit system, experience points. They're saying, here's $10 in experience points and credit. We just want you to watch the video. Very interesting approach to gamification. I expect tons and tons of companies, especially when they're dealing with small businesses or they're dealing with consumers. You're going to see much more of this type of gamification experience. It's going to create a better user experience. You're going to love the products more. You're going to onboard to get a shorter time to value faster. I think it's an excellent direction for companies to move, and I look forward to more of it.